Daniel, thank you for joining us again on the channel. Appreciate you coming.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for having me in your home, first of all. This is great. I get to be in the...
Welcome to the YouTube studio.
Yeah, it's perfect. Awesome. Well, last time I had you on was in April of 2023. Back then, you had 83,000 subscribers. You had about 8.4 million views across your channel. Now we sit here today in January of 2025. You have 183,000 subscribers, as well as 21.4 million views across your channel. Off the bat, how do those numbers make you feel? Because that's pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, it's awesome to really like see it over time more than anything, because like I just passed the 4-year anniversary of my YouTube channel, and now looking back just 2 years and seeing where that was and where it is today, it's like it's awesome. And then just excited to see where the next 2 years go.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think both of us have luckily seen a lot of growth, and we've grown our communities a lot, and it's just cool to see how along that journey too, we've had the same people kind of comment across both channels, and the community is just as strong as ever. So I just thought those numbers would be cool to share with you, because it's a nice little time capsule in case we do this in another year or so.
For sure.
But yeah, I guess for everybody that doesn't know you, which I think everybody watching this video would, but can you explain in your own words, basically just who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Daniel Braun, and I run a YouTube channel kind of focused in the credit card space, also a little bit of personal finance and some other things mixed in there. But people most know me for credit cards, points and miles stuff, and I love being a part of this community here on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like I said, been doing it 4 years now, been doing it full time for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just really looking to continue growing the channel and growing the team, growing the community, really. It's just all around a common mission of helping people optimize their everyday finances and save money on travel, save money in their everyday lives. And it's just stuff that I love talking about. So it's truly like I don't work a day in my life.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's exactly how I feel too. Speaking on the credit card stuff, and looking at your channel, I feel like you have an audience that is more just general credit card users. It's not necessarily hyper niche down to aspirational travelers or anything like that, which is, I think, a really beautiful thing. It helps a lot of people, obviously, hence your audience size and everything. But I think one of the important topics that we can cover right off the rip is just, what do you think is the best credit card setup for the majority of people?
Yeah. And just because you say that, like my audience really is pretty wide and pretty broad. Yeah. So my first thing that I would ask somebody with that question is like, are you going to play the credit card game? Do you want to play the points and miles game? Because if you just want to be the average user that wants to get 1 or 2 cards, a few cards to have in your wallet, then my answer is going to be different compared to if you want to play the whole game and really like optimize things and 10 plus credit cards over the next few years. For the average person, I would say, standard card would be a good like catch-all 2% back card.
Mm-hmm.
You can go with something that's cash back related. You can go with something that's points and miles related. But if you're just going to be very casual about this, then definitely a 2% card. And then I'd say something that's going to earn really well at grocery stores and dining as well, because usually that's another area of spending. People spend a lot of money. From there, you can optimize for rent spend with a Bilt MasterCard. But I would really say cards like the Capital One Saver, Citi Double Cash are 2 very good options for just the average user. If you want to play the whole points and miles game like I do, and get multiple cards, like I said, 10 plus, I'd go more down the path of looking at Chase first, and then like getting those cards, testing out the waters, very beginner friendly setup there, and then eventually moving into some other cards as well, and starting to like look for the best sign up offers, look for limited time offers, build out your core credit card setup along the way. But that's where we really get into like the nitty gritty of things if you're trying to optimize for that. So that's generally how I would kind of go about those setups based off the type of person.
It's interesting to kind of think about this topic from a high level perspective, because obviously when you're making videos, you try to make the video for somebody in no matter what situation they're in. But at the same time, everybody's setup is going to be so personal. So out of the people you've talked to, the videos you've made, do you think most people kind of tend to lean towards a travel kind of setup whenever they're playing the credit card game, even if that's only they have a few cards? Or do you think like a more cashback appropriate setup is best for most?
I think people always want to do the travel stuff because it is gamified in a way. And when you get a good travel redemption, there's this psychological thing that goes on that I think you're just like I don't know. I just used $100 worth of points to book a $400 flight or a hotel stay. Something about that feels really cool. So I think that for a lot of people, I think that if you're willing to put in just a little bit of time to learn that stuff, then I do think going with the travel stuff is the better option. It's got more value out there and higher upside. But for the average type of person that really does not want to think much about it, cashback, there's nothing wrong with it. Like I will never hold that against anybody. Yeah. There's some great cashback cards out there, and those cards are the ones that tend to lean towards no annual fees. So sometimes there's people that just are against annual fees, even if the numbers make sense and there's going to be credits to offset those fees or benefits that offset those fees. everybody's thing is personal. So, one approach, there's no one size fits all approach to anything related to money. And the same holds true to credit cards. So yeah, I think it's all up to the person. And if you want to go cash back, then go cash back.
And if you do go cash back, I think one of the popular choices you should consider would be starting with like even credit union credit cards. That's something I've talked to other people on the creator conversations about, like Josh Butler, for example, Stan the Credit Frog. A bunch of people that are on the cashback side really do love those credit union cards. I'm interested. I don't think you have any personally, but do you ever recommend those to people?
I don't have any personally, so I do like to try to like give recommendations based on what I know the most about, and sometimes credit unions can vary depending on what you have access to. So yeah, I think if you're able to find credit union cards that are comparable to some of these more popular, big bank type credit cards, but they fit your needs better and they get you into a relationship with a credit union a little bit better. Again, it's totally a perfect option for some people out there. So I think what I don't want people to do is to just put zero thought into their credit cards. And that is a mistake a lot of people make, is they just get a certain credit card because they stay at Marriott's a lot and they think that needs to be a card they have in their wallet. And that's not always true. You don't know how to redeem the Marriott points, you can actually be like worse off with that. And that's with any hotel, airline credit card. So I just think people need to put more thought into that and do the research. And so hopefully, our channels can serve as part of that research process. But by no means should YouTube be the only thing you do. You should definitely read Reddit and read blog posts and read as much, talk to friends and family and stuff. But just build out your own opinion and don't like go into it completely blind.
Yeah, exactly. Taking the word of somebody on the internet at face value without doing any of your own research is very dangerous, no matter what the niche is, but especially credit cards as well. You did mention something about the big banks there versus the credit unions. I think it'd be fun to kind of go through the typical trifectas, duos, whatever quadfectas that each of these big banks have, and just see what you think about each of them. See what you think is best, again, for the average credit card user. So why don't we just tick through those, starting with we'll start with Chase, because that's probably the easiest, the Chase trifecta. What do you think about that setup?
Big benefit there. Two big benefits. Number one, the ease of use for beginners.
Yep.
So it's like the three cards that are typically a part of that Chase trifecta, with a Sapphire card and then the two Freedom cards. Very low annual fees, very easy to understand how you're getting value there. They have 25 or 50% bonus when redeeming travel through the Chase portal. So those are good options for people who are just getting started in the credit card world, and they want to use the points and miles stuff for travel, because the transfer partners can be complicated. But then the second thing that's really good about it is they have Hyatt as a transfer partner, and that's a huge advantage to have in the points and miles game, in my opinion, because Hyatt, I think, is just going to be the best place to start when you're learning how to transfer points. It's like when you're comparing the cash price of a Hyatt stay versus the points price. First of all, when you book it in points, there's no taxes and fees. So you're really just comparing things. The cent per point calculation is very, very forward, very easy to understand. So I think just because it's low annual fees, good sign up bonuses, good features, and these transfer bonuses and the points boost features in the portals, I think that's just a great beginner setup. And honestly, a setup you can have alongside any of the other credit card duos, trifectas out there. I think it's a good complementary setup to have no matter what for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the most flexible, points currency for one is the big reason that I recommend those types of setups to people, as well as all of like the application rules when it comes to Chase 524 and stuff. Getting those cards early makes a lot of sense. So I completely agree with you there. Now, shifting over to another very popular setup, what about the Amex trifecta? This is one that I think constantly the debate, between an Amex trifecta or a Chase trifecta is pretty huge. And a lot of Amex fanboys, I like to call them, sorry, I'm partially an Amex fanboy at sometimes, but a lot of people will say that setup's just way better than a Chase trifecta because of the lack of overlap of the earning categories and stuff like that, as well as better travel potential depending on how you use your points. But yeah, so what do you think about the Amex trifecta?
Yeah, the Amex trifecta, I really think, in my opinion, like I don't really look at the green card that much. I look at more like the gold, platinum, and the blue business plus. But to me, it's like each one of those cards are great standalone cards. They're not, there's not like as much, I guess you say, like synergy to having them all together. You can have them all together if they make sense, but I really look at like, especially the gold and the platinum, just because they have higher annual fees, that they're those cards you need to look at more on an individual basis. Make sure those credits are making sense for you. Make sure that, anybody can get good value from a card in year one with the sign up bonus and things like that. But when you look at the credits and stuff, if they don't make sense for your spending habits, there's no point to having it long term, I think. So it's a great setup for certain people. Platinum card definitely for people who maybe like consultants or on the road a lot, using the Amex lounges a lot, using those Uber benefits, using the, digital entertainment credit, the airline fee credit, all that stuff. It's a card that makes sense for me. And so does the Amex Gold card. And, I want to almost dislike the Gold card now because of all the recent changes it's gone through. I really want to dislike it because I just don't like when the annual fees go up and they start to make it these coupon books and becomes more like the Platinum card. But when I run the numbers myself, it actually, the new credits do make my effective annual fee lower with the Resi credit. I still use the Uber credits. Dining credit, I haven't used as much. They threw in Five Guys, and I have a peanut allergy, and apparently peanuts are just everywhere in Five Guys, so I'm never going to use that. I'm not a big Dunkin' guy. I prefer like local coffee shops. It's also probably controversial for some people. But no matter what, the card is still a very pretty low effective annual fee for me after I use up the credits that I do use. So and then you can't beat the 4x on dining and in grocery stores. So yeah, I think though the Amex Trifecta is one that you don't have to have them all together, but look at each card on its individual basis.
Yeah, that's a really great point too. Because the other thing about not needing all three is the fact that with Amex's cards, any of the ones that earn membership rewards points, you do not have to have a specific card in order to transfer those points out to partners. So with all three of the cards that he just mentioned, you can transfer out to partners. So even if you just had the Blue Business Plus, you still have access. Whereas opposed to like a Chase setup or even a Citi setup, which we can get into next, or Capital One setup, you need a specific card to make those points actually useful for travel. And yeah, the Capital One Duo is one that I know we actually talked a lot about in the last episode we did together. It's still a very powerful duo. I'm interested to see if your thoughts have changed on it at all, or now that you have the Venture X as well, at least in your 2-player setup. So
yeah, it's so back 2 years ago when we talked about it, I feel like it actually was still pretty less talked about topic. And now it's really become more popular for people to know about it and talk about it on YouTube and on blogs. I think that if you're looking at any travel setup that is going to be right now the best long-term setup, it's probably that one. Who knows if the Venture X is going to have changes that come down the line, devaluations. That's something that all credit cards go through. So we'll see. But regardless, I think the Savor card, that was recently rebranded and stuff, still a great, that's in my opinion, one of the best no annual fee credit cards on the market, hands down, because it works well on a cashback setup, or you can take the cashback you're earning and then convert it to Venture miles with the Venture X card. And then the Venture X just makes a lot of sense with the way the annual fee is offset by the credits. So yeah, 2 years ago, I did not have that card. My fiance, girlfriend at the time, now my wife, did not have the card. I got denied twice for the Venture X just because, first of all, when I got into the whole credit card game, that was never a card that existed. So it wasn't a part of my plan initially. And then it kind of came on the scene, but I was in the middle of getting some other cards. And by the time I was ready to get the Venture X, it was at the point that I think they just, every time I applied, it just said, you have too many revolving accounts. And there's nothing I can really do about that at this time. I'm going to keep trying. Every now and then I'll go in and I'll use their pre-approval tool to see if there's anything that's changed. And if that ever says that I'm pre-approved, maybe I'll give it another go. But for right now, it wouldn't approve me. So I got denied twice for it. Nothing wrong with that. It's the only card I've ever been denied for.
Yeah.
And so then I just had my wife apply the second I got denied that second time. And she got approved instantly because she had like 4 or 5 credit cards to her name at that time. And yeah, now we just had it as a good catch-all option. We just used our $300 credit again on something we were going to pay cash for anyway. So to me, that's the best way to use that credit, is like to use it when you were already going to pay cash. So you're getting the full value of that credit. And our effective annual fee is negative $5 every year with that. Probably even lower than that, honestly, because the 10,000 miles you get every year is going to be worth more than $100 in our hands.
Exactly.
So I think it's probably, out of all these Trifectas duos, I think it's the one that people are going to have the most positive things to say about if you talk to just the average person.
Yeah, as long as they can get approved. That I already see the comments coming in agreeing with you, or at least sympathizing with the fact that you couldn't get approved. That's a super popular thing these days.
That's the big thing that they got to work on, and we'll see if Discover Capital One merger goes through, things change with their underwriting and all that. But they got to work on that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I actually used my Venture X travel credit for this trip as well. It's one that for me, I'm having a harder time justifying than I thought I would initially, mainly because the $300 annual travel credit, as long as I have to pay cash in a portal, I don't do that as frequently as I would, hope. So that card alongside my Chase Sapphire Reserve, it makes it a lot less powerful. So I'm curious for your situation. I mean, you kind of explained how you just justified it, but alongside the Platinum card, how do you use those in tandem?
Yeah, the Platinum card is one that really the only time I'm spending on that card is if we're booking a flight in cash.
Right.
And then we just want to take advantage of the 5X on flights booked with airlines. There's good travel protections on that card as well. The Sapphire Reserve we'll throw in the mix as well for different, like we booked an Airbnb on an upcoming trip to Cape Town through the Sapphire Reserve card, 3X on that, good travel protections. So it's, they kind of all work for different scenarios. I don't think everybody needs to have all these cards by any means. And honestly, a large portion of what premium travel card you go with also is going to be dependent on what airport lounge you have at your home airport or airports you go to a lot.
Yeah, I honestly completely forgot that you also had the reserve. So y'all have all three in your setup.
Yeah, we have all three.
And like you said, I think majority of people don't need that many. I actually just made a video about this topic because I feel like I'm at a point where, as an average, like I have a low amount of spend. I'm traveling frequently, but even like not enough to really justify both the Ventrex and Sapphire Reserve. I think most people really just need to focus on that one, buy into that one ecosystem, and just stick with it on that side of things. But it is interesting hearing how people like you can use all of them in tandem.
At the end of the day, too, if I'm somebody that likes the airport lounges.
Yeah.
Some people don't care for them. Some people it's a nice to have. I like it, and maybe that's just people spend money on things they like. And so if it means that, okay, I'm going to pay a $250 effective annual fee on the CSR for going to Sapphire lounges, and there's one coming, apparently a massive one, to my home airport of Philadelphia, I'll gladly pay that. It's just a nice to have because I'd like to go there. And then we have the Amex lounge in Philly as well. So Platinum card gets us in there for that. I would not be opposed to canceling the Platinum card in the future if I see myself going to the Sapphire Lounge more in Philly. So it's always a changing thing too. So my opinions are never like set in stone. It's going to be flexible and fluid over time.
Yeah, that's a great thing. That's exactly where I'm at with the Ventrex. It's like I started assuming I'd get plenty of positive value. I wanted that lounge access and stuff. And now that I have the reserve, I'm like, well, my opinion's kind of changing on it. But the other thing is I don't really want to cancel the Ventrex because I don't think I'll be able to get it back if I cancel it or even downgrade it. So I'm like, okay, I might just need to stick with it, which is a topic for another video and another time. The one other setup we haven't really talked about would be the Citi Trifecta. Obviously, I think most people understand that that's the setup that probably has the best earning categories across the board for daily spend, at least with a 3-card setup. What are your opinions on it? Do you think people should consider it?
Yeah, I did a video, I think, comparing all 4 of these trifectas, duos, maybe a year or 2 ago. And I think the Citi Trifecta actually, like you said, has the best spending multipliers. It does. Like in terms of having that personal card that earns 2x with the double cash, having the flexible, wild card essentially with the custom cash. I think that's a great card. Another one of the best no annual fee options. And then the new Strata Premier is a great spending card as well. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's probably one that's good to test drive as well. Worst case is you end up having 2 cards with no annual fee and one with a $95 annual fee. And again, it's not a very expensive type of setup. So I think that's what's good about it as well. And we'll see if they do. Apparently, there's rumors that Citi's got some sort of a premium card in the works. That would be awesome to see what they do with that. Yep. People really loved the Citi Prestige before, so we'll see what happens there as well. But I think that could get very competitive in that premium top tier cards, level of the credit card ladder. So I do I have the Citi Trifecta minus the double cash right now. Same. I don't have the double cash, but I have the custom cash, and I got the Strata Premier, good sign up bonus. I don't use the Strata Premier nearly as much as I could because all of the spending multipliers are pretty well covered. It's a good 3x spending multiplier card, but then I'm covered at 3x or better with a lot of the other cards I have. So it's a card that's it's great, and I think I would be more inclined to go with the Citi Trifecta if this top tier card is really going to excel or have a lot of value compared to its competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my predictions for 2025 is that they will release that card. I think that's a lot of people's predictions, or maybe predictions or hopes. It might be a better word for that, but I'm excited. I also invested in the Citi ecosystem. I invested in the custom cash really early on by applying for it as my 4th card, I think, to start checking off my gas purchases. And then I just recently applied for the Strata Premier last year. I don't remember exactly when, or maybe, sometime last year. And I have the same issue of really only, I only use it for 3x back on groceries normally, which is it has so many good categories, but I don't really use it. And that's something that I think a lot of people could relate to as well whenever they start to build out these 5, 10, 20 plus card setups like you have, is you have all these cards with annual fees on them. You're not really using them for earning categories. So how do you justify that amount of annual fee coverage in your setup?
No, it really is every year. I'm having to constantly reevaluate whether the annual fees are worth it. For example, there's just recently there was 2 cards that I had. One where I decided that the annual fee was no longer worth it, and one where I was about to make that same decision, and then I changed my mind. So I had 2 cards for this. Amex Business Gold, and then the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless.
Yep.
So the Business Gold card increased its annual fee last year. I got it with the lower annual fee, and this was before they announced that annual fee increase, and the changes weren't as great as I was hoping for. So I went and asked if there was any retention offers. There was nothing. I wasn't going to be using the card that much anymore, so I closed it down because there was it was like an $80 annual fee increase or something like that. And then but then for the Bonvoy Boundless card, I was also thinking of downgrading that or doing a product change or something like that, because I was like, you know what, the $35K free night award you get with that card, it's $95 annual fee. You get a 35,000 point free night award. But Marriott points, I think you kind of, well, the longer you're in the game, you kind of realize that Marriott points aren't nearly worth what they used to be or what they should be. And it only gets you so far. You can top up those points though with you transfer points into, from different points ecosystems to Marriott. You could top that up 15,000 points for up to, make it a 50,000 free night award. And actually, I just used it the other. So like I used it, and I forgot the exact valuation, but for a $95 annual fee, I think we got a hotel that was valued at like $300 for a night in Cape Town. And so to me, it was like that was a hotel I was going to have to book anyway. And I used my $95 annual fee card to get a $300 value. So for this year, that card is justified, and I'm glad I kept it. And so I'll probably keep it again next year because of that. But that's the kind of thing that I do, is I'm just going through constantly, and like I'm not married to any one card. And so I think it's also good if people have in their mind before they get certain cards, knowing what their options are. So knowing whether there's the option for retention offers, potentially downgrade paths, or if they cancel it, what's the impact to their credit profile and things like that. So again, it all goes back into like doing your homework and not just like jumping right into getting a credit card, but doing your research. So I know what my options are for each one of my cards too. That's why I'm not like so tied down to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So all those setups we just covered are core credit card setups, I would say. Like they're really covering your main spend categories. They're giving you access. They're transferable currency credit cards. So you have the ability to later use them for travel if you want. Chase and Citi have the ability to also just use them as cashback setups if you want, without needing special cards for that. But on the flip side, so if we have the core credit card setup covered, I think something that Stan talks about a lot and I really resonate with is like most people probably should have a core credit card setup for earning and then a benefit setup for hotels, airlines, whatever else. Do you think about your setup like that, or I guess what cards besides the Boundless you just mentioned do you have in there to supplement? Yeah,
the cards that I have right now in terms of like airline, hotel benefits, things like that, I don't have that many. So I have another $95 per year Hyatt personal card.
Gotcha.
That works in a similar way to the Bonvoy Boundless, where it's got a $95 annual fee and then a category 1 to 4 Hyatt award, where I used that again recently for like $250 in value. So again, that's one of those it's a sock drawer card that I'll use, and I have it preloaded to my Hyatt account for Hyatt stays, but it's not getting used that much. In terms of the other cards with like benefits like that, I'm not somebody that's really like chasing status or like chasing those types of benefits, at least at the moment right now. So I don't really have, I think it's actually a good way to approach it for people that do want to have those extra benefits if they know that they're going to be loyal to Delta, American, United, or any of the hotel chains. I have nothing against it, because I think it's good to take advantage of the flexible bank points first. And once you have that core setup built out, then start to look at some of those supplemental benefits. So I think it's a smart strategy, honestly.
Yeah, it's exactly how I even think about Marriott, for example. Like you mentioned, Marriott's cent per point value is pretty low on average. Like it's going to be less than 1 cent per point usually. So even though you can top off your Marriott points with, say, your Chase points, you might not necessarily want to do that if you are strapped for Chase points, because you're basically automatically cutting that value that you could get in like half. So instead, I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm going to be staying at Marriott's. Let me get the Boundless. I'll get a welcome offer, then work that whole strategy. Another question I had about that card in particular is there any part of your strategy that got that in anticipation to upgrade it to the Ritz-Carlton card at some point? Okay.
I know a lot of people do that. I never personally, and maybe it's just maybe an unpopular opinion, I don't think it's as worth it as some people think, because I just worry about if it's already a card that's discontinued, I worry that like the long-term value for that card is not going to be there. So like I never got it with the anticipation of having it long-term. Again, for people, I think you may have gotten it for that, and other people have done that. Yeah. So I think that's a great thing to take advantage of it while it's still there, to be able to product change to that. Totally cool. But yeah, it's something that I knew I was going to get the Sapphire Reserve, just because some of the benefits there on that card made more sense for me. And again, being based in Philadelphia with the Sapphire Lounge, I felt like that was just the better option for me. And also, like, I'm more loyal to Hyatt than to Marriott as well. So it was something I thought about for a little bit. But then I realized I think I'm actually going to keep the Bond Boy boundless.
Yeah, the balance is just that's an easy value justification, and I've run into the same issue now where I'm like, okay, I initially got it, thinking I would eventually upgrade to the Ritz. But if you're somebody that has even like the Platinum card, for example, the Ritz card has the exact same status as the Platinum. It costs $450, first of all. So that on top of it has the Priority Pass lounge access, but we have that covered on like our Reserve as well. So what does the real value come from? And that really is in that like 85,000 point free night.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't have a trip planned for that, why would I spend $450 a year? And some people, they've been asking me constantly about that one because it's cool. Really, main reason I even wanted at this point is because if they did discontinue it, it'd be cool to say I had it. But that's not a good reason to pay $450 for a card. So now to kind of flip this all on its head a bit, we've talked about all the good sides of these popular credit cards, but you recently made a video that's honestly probably the most popular credit card video we've seen in a long time in this space. It was titled The Haters Guide, 2025 Haters Guide to Credit Cards, right? And in that video, you talk a lot about the downsides of the most popular cards. And I think obviously that topic did so well for a reason. So maybe we can rehash some of those topics here today.
Yeah, I mean, so all credit is due to, I don't remember the exact user on Reddit, but it was a Reddit user, and it's actually the top post all time on the credit cards subreddit. So I saw that and I was like, okay, this is a perfect, like, I can't believe nobody's made a YouTube video about it. And so I reached out to the person that wrote that and just said like, hey, like I was thinking of making this, like I'll link to the thing in the description and whatnot. And they gave their blessing and stuff. I mean, either way, I was going to make it, but like I wanted to make sure they got the credit. So great topic on Reddit, definitely worth a read because they went into even more detail about even more credit cards. So check that out. But yeah, I was like, let me make a video about it and talk about at least the most popular cards that do seem to get the most attention. So made a video, and I'm going to make a part 2 because I think I mentioned in the video I wanted to make a part 2 for it, and there was more airline cards and other like maybe less popular banks. I think I wanted to touch on like maybe US Bank and a few others. Wells Fargo even and whatnot. And so, yeah, so I want to make another video for the part 2, but I think it was just a good thing because it's like we talk about all the positives about all these credit cards, but you should definitely be informed about the negatives and things like that too. So, I just tried to take that counterpoint of view and go through the downsides, like the fact that the Capital One Venture X is difficult to get approved for. That takes away from what that card offers. The fact that Amex has high annual fees and they're all coupon books and the annual fees keep going up, all annoying things. No credit card's perfect, and in that all the positives and the negatives should be factored into your decision making.
Is there a specific card out of that bunch that you saw maybe even like the most negative comments about, or some there are certain cards out there that people just like love and they attach to so heavily that if you talk anything negative about them, you kind of get flamed for it? And one of those cards that I found on my channel, which I rarely ever mention, but it comes up randomly, is the Apple card, which was in the thumbnail too for the video. I was wondering if that was intentional because people are so attached to it, but is there any others?
Yeah, honestly, that is the one that people somehow always seem to defend the most. And it's never the people that are deep in the trenches of the credit card game. It's always people that are the ones that just want to have a few one or two credit cards, and they like the interface, and I get that. They like the security features it has. They like that the money just automatically goes to your Apple savings account. And there's nothing wrong with all that stuff, but I mean, I think it's definitely important to still point out the flaws of the Apple card and how it's just like it's not a perfect credit card, just like any other card. And I think there's just better 2% cards out there. But if the Apple card, if you value having the simplicity and you value having just using Apple Pay everywhere, good 2% back, like I said, good interface that explains stuff really well, then yeah, nothing wrong with it. But I definitely wanted to include that in the thumbnail because I know for a fact that's one. I've made previous Apple Card videos, and I got to make another update soon. I'm kind of waiting to see where the card moves for issuers. But I definitely want to make more content about that because people just, for some reason, defend that card relentlessly, or they hate on it relentlessly. It's like one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. There's some very polarizing cards for my channel. That's obviously like the gold card for me is like the big one that I did cancel in 2024, and that got a lot of backlash. But there are so many that people have some weird affinity towards. So yeah, that's great. What about some of the other most popular cards? Can you touch on some of the biggest downsides to them and what people's rebuttals would be? Or
the Amex Platinum card is the next like most polarizing credit card out there. So people are just like, I can't believe you pay $695 for an annual fee. And then other people are like, I'm traveling 50 times a year. Why would I not have this card? So again, it's all based on personal experience. The gold card people really like to hate on now just because it is becoming that coupon book. It's just more credits to keep track of, which not everyone wants to do. So again, it comes down to how organized are you, or how organized do you want to be in it? Again, it's a credit card game. So it's like people, if you're not really into it, it might not be a card for you anymore, whereas it used to be a couple years ago.
Right.
I mean, the Chase credit cards, I think people like to just find ways to hate on that because there is no grocery category. I think that's a downside. There's a lot of overlaps in the points multipliers, which I've always thought was kind of weird, but they're not targeting those cards towards like the most efficient credit card users. They're targeting them towards everybody who's just gonna, they don't mind if there's an overlap for 3x on dining on every card. But I think those cards definitely need to get a grocery category, or they need to bump up the unlimited card to a 2x card to be competitive.
Right.
I don't know that they ever will, but yeah, and then Citi cards. I mean, Citi, I think people really they hate on like customer service, and I think that was a big thing I mentioned. And if you just go over to Reddit and you read about customer service for Citi, it's really funny to read about. So yeah, there's so many negatives out there to every credit card. You're never going to find the perfect card, but just find what works for your situation and view it from both sides. Like I said, I mean, I'm going to be more detailed in my research when I talk about credit cards than the average person, but I think hopefully like my channel can be that source where I'm aggregating all this information for them.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear too about, you mentioned how people kind of graduate away from cards over time, right? And you have a lot of credit cards. We'll get into your setup in a little bit, but are there specific cards, even in making that video, that you figured out like, you know what, this card used to make sense for me, now it really doesn't. You might still be keeping it open just because it's no annual fee or whatever, but did that making that video change your mindset on any of your current credit cards?
I don't think it changed my mindset necessarily about anything that I currently have. There's definitely cards that I use more of now that I didn't before, or cards that I use less right now than before. It's I think if anything, the one question that I always come back to is like, is my mindset around using a card like the Freedom Unlimited to earn 1.5x? Is that actually a good decision versus a 2x card? At the end of the day, it's 0.5 points per dollar, and it might not sound like much. It can move the needle depending on your spending. So for me and my wife, we both we kind of go back and forth between using like a Venture X, or we use the Freedom Unlimited, really depending on how many points or what kind of points we're trying to earn at that time. So if we're trying to earn more points for Hyatt transfers, then we'll go with the Unlimited card for 1.5. If we're just trying to earn more points in general or miles in general, we'll go with the Venture X. So I think if anything, maybe that opened my mind up to like that argument. And people, I think people understand both ways. So I haven't had like too much pushback on that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think there is like a one size fits all at all. Like even when it comes to that discussion of a Freedom Unlimited versus like a Venture X, in my case, that's where my decision lies, in the 1.5 versus the 2X. But based on the way I travel, I'm always in need of more UR points. I'm not always in need of more Venture miles. So it's like, okay, no matter what the reviews say, no matter what technical positive value I get from each card, if I'm not going to end up using the points that I'm getting positive value for, then it doesn't really make a difference. So I wondered how polarizing that video would be, because people are either really attached to their cards or really hate on certain cards. So I think it was just a great video overall, and there's a reason why it did so well. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And then another thing that's changed since we last filmed is the fact that you did get married, which you talked about. So congrats, first of all. But yeah, there you go. There you go.
Ring.
Yeah. Very, lucky man you are, right?
Yeah.
But in that amount of time as well, obviously your setup's going to change, because now you're fully in that 2-player mode, where before you were still playing it. But I'm curious to see how your setup has changed since that. And we actually have a member's question as well about this, so I wanted to read that off for you. But yeah, so Jordan from the Jordan Rules for Credit asked, how do you approach getting your player 2 to apply for cards? And how did you get them on board with credit cards in the first place? We'll start there and then get into your setup overall.
Okay. Yeah, so I think getting them like on board with the credit cards in the first place is kind of fun to start with. So I got into the credit card stuff in, I guess it was like 2018 was when I really started getting into it. With my first job at work, I was like traveling a little bit more, and then I wanted to start earning some points for my spend. So I met Jackie, my wife, in 2019, and so I was kind of just in the beginning stages at that point. But then pandemic happened. We were at home, and I was still getting more credit cards. She could see that I was really like going deep down this rabbit hole of this hobby. And then it wasn't until, maybe like 2021 that we started traveling a little bit, and then 2022 traveling more, and then even more for 2023 and 2024. And so with each year that passed, she got more travel out of it, because I wanted to use the points for both of us. And so I think the more that she saw the tangible results of what this stuff can get you, the more she was on board with it. So eventually it was like, okay, well, hey, we're using, these points up. We should try to replenish our balances. And there's a huge opportunity for you to get at least, maybe some chase cards and to add those to your setup versus, I think she just had like a Discover It card at that time. So she got into it with that. And again, that's the whole like, it's a good beginner starting phase into this stuff. Good way to take advantage of those points. So she got into that. And then she slowly just was like, okay, I'll maybe get the Venture X because you got denied for it. We got that. Now we're at the point where it's like, I've gotten so many different cards that I can slow down on my end a little bit, and she can start to pick it up and get some of the same cards for bonuses and build out her core setup. Because after we got married, we fully combined finances, so we've got joint bank accounts. We basically doesn't matter whose card we're spending on at all. Like before, maybe it mattered a little bit more. We were kind of budgeting together, but also a little bit separate, and just kind of like trying to make sure we split things where like it was a little more like equal, or I was paying a little more because I eat more food and stuff like that. So now it's all joint. So it doesn't matter whose card we're using. So we occasionally will add each other as authorized users, but right now it actually makes more sense to get a new account, like a separate account. I may just add her as an authorized user on my Amex Gold card just because I don't necessarily want to have another $325 annual fee. So even if we could get her a sign-up bonus on that card, maybe we'll do that. But I think long-term, we'll just have her as an authorized user. For some of the other cards, I'm an authorized user on her Venture X. Doesn't matter now at this point that I can't get approved. Obviously, I would like to have my own account for the sign-up bonus. But I'm just using that and getting 2X right now at the moment. So yeah, I guess getting your player 2 into the whole credit card game, take them on a nice trip, and then use that to convince them. That's what I would say.
Yeah. When it comes to redeeming those points together, are you having to ever like make transfers to each other's accounts? Or are you, for the most part, able to just use the points that each of y'all have for those trips? I kind of wonder how that works.
Yeah. What's good with like Chase is you can actually combine household accounts. So we call them up, and we now anytime she earns points, she's able to transfer them over because we're in the same household. We pretty much always just anytime she has points, we move them over to my account because we have my Hyatt account has the globalist status and all that. So that's where we tend to transfer those points out to. And then most of the other stuff, like I'm the one that understands the redeeming side of things. She's learning that stuff too, but like I understand it the most. So typically we try to have it where like it's my account with any international airline, domestic airline. So we're transferring points to do it that way. It's a little tougher with other points currencies. So it works out really well though right now with the fact that Chase transfers to Hyatt, because that's our only like status we're worried about. We don't have status with any other airlines. We maybe have like small levels of status with some, and we have gold with Marriott and gold with Hilton. But for the most part, we can transfer directly from her account as well. So it doesn't really matter where we're transferring to. So yeah, I think it works out just fine right now.
Yeah, no issues. It sounds like so.
No.
I imagine before y'all were actually married, it might have been more difficult. I'm not sure, because did y'all have the household account before?
We did. We were able to. I think they define it like you didn't have to be married, but if you're living in the same household, and we were living in the same apartment. We moved in after COVID and stuff, so it worked. And I think that's where you just have to be. For people doing the player 2 thing, I guess you just have to like have an honest conversation with your significant other and be like, okay, hey, like, where are we going here? And this is probably the conversations you're having anyway. But I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're going to transfer points to player 2, you better be sure it's serious.
Exactly. Yeah. It's as serious as it gets.
Yeah.
Looking at y'all's actual setups though, so the cards that you have, we'll split it up first. So how many current credit cards do you have active? And then we can talk about Jackie's as well, so you can see the full picture of what y'all use.
So I think right now I'm at 22 or 23. I think 23 with the Venture X authorized user card.
Gotcha.
For myself. Jackie has 6 or 7.
Okay. So you're pushing like 30 cards between the two.
Yeah. And there's overlap where there's like similar cards. So like she doesn't have, I think there's the only card that she has that I don't have would be the Venture X.
Okay.
Other than that, it's like Chase cards. We've thought about adding the Saver card for her because I think that's just a great card to have. It's kind of between adding that for her and taking advantage of that card, or just adding her as an authorized user on my gold card, like I said.
Right.
So we're kind of going back and forth on that because we had I guess we've just been taking advantage of like some other sign up bonuses for grocery cards before, and but now I think that's kind of where we stand. We probably are going to hold off on getting new cards for a little while right now because we're in the process of looking at houses. So we're trying to make sure our credit score is all in good place. So yeah, I think that's kind of what's holding us off from like adding another card for her right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that actually is an interesting topic to talk about, being the house search as well, because a lot of us play this game at a really rapid pace where we're always trying to apply for new cards, for new welcome bonuses. But there are periods of your life where you have to slow down. So I guess what exactly is the reason behind you doing that? If you can explain to people how that affects your credit score and all that.
Yeah, basically, we just want to make sure that we are not applying for new credit roughly in like the 6 months leading up to actually applying for a mortgage. Our credit scores are in great places where we both have over 800 scores. My last card I opened up, I believe, in September of last year. So, we're already a few months removed from that. And I think Jackie, it's been at least like 6 months already. So we're in a fine spot. There's just really no need for us to go and get another card because, first of all, we have all our travel basically booked right now for this year. So we don't need more points to redeem for travel this year. And we have a great core setup. So we're already like optimizing our spend categories. So we're just gonna hold off because we want to get the best mortgage possible, best rates possible. You just don't want to have these hard inquiries, and you don't want lenders to be like, oh, why are you seeking out more credit? Like, are you overextending yourself? Yeah, and I think it's something to talk to, like, in someone's own situation, to talk to your lenders about. So we're really only in like the searching process right now. So we haven't even been like talking to lenders, but we're just kind of preparing for it.
Yeah. Always putting yourself in the bank shoes, I think, is probably the best way to go about it. If you're applying for a ton of cards right before you go get a mortgage, they're wondering why you need more credit. Like, are you going to have to default on payments, all that kind of stuff. So that's an important thing to look at. But yeah, that'll be an exciting thing to hopefully follow on your channel. I'm sure the Built card plays a role in this whole process. And we haven't talked about that card much, but maybe you could touch on how that.
Yeah. I basically, I'm actually like, I was making a video about it. I think I filmed it yesterday, and we're going to consider the benefits of that card and how you can now earn points on buying a house, like 1 point for every $2 of the purchase price of a home if you go through their EXP Realty, who they've partnered with. So we're kind of exploring that, but also we have friends and family who work in real estate as agents, and if depending on what their costs could be, we're going to weigh that, and we're also going to weigh like their expertise of people that we know personally in our lives versus some stranger that, Built might pair us with. So I think it's going to be really interesting to actually have that firsthand experience. It's kind of good timing for that, to be able to report on that throughout this year. And then hopefully paying a mortgage, earning points in that is coming soon as well with the Built MasterCard. So that could be good timing as well. Yeah, it's an exciting time right now, but we've positioned ourselves really well with our credit scores, and then the Built card has kind of just been like the cherry on top for earning points on our rent in the meantime while we wait for that right time to buy a house.
How bullish are you on the mortgage payments on the Built card? Because that's a hot topic right now. It's one that I'm pretty bearish on, I would say, because I'm like, I don't think they're going to automatically give you 1x back on mortgages. I think it might follow a structure that's a lot less profitable, but I don't know if you have thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like it's coming because their CEO talked about it in a letter to Built card holders for what's coming in 2025. And they mentioned that what I do see happening, and no confirmed anything, but what I do see happening is maybe, okay, well, they for the earning points when buying a house, they partnered with a certain real estate firm. And so maybe they would do a similar thing where they're only partnering with certain lenders. So who knows? Maybe they could partner with just exclusively Wells Fargo since they're issued by Wells Fargo. Maybe they bring in like a Rocket Mortgage or some other mortgage fintech company or something like that. It's all speculation. I don't know. But that could be one side of it, that you have to go with a certain lender. And so at that point, you got to run the numbers and realize, okay, am I getting good terms here? Is the rate that I'm going to have to pay here higher for buying a house or refinancing or something like that through their lender versus what I could get elsewhere? So again, it comes down to doing your homework and doing the math, being patient with it. Yeah, and then who knows? Maybe it's like one of those things where you're not earning 1 point per dollar spent on your mortgage, but it could be 0.5 points, where it's similar to the buying a house setup.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I think it's coming. I don't want people to like get their hopes up, but I think it is definitely a very exciting thing because, again, if it's money you're spending already and you're able, any extra helps, because any extra rewards helps, and that's the way I viewed the Built MasterCard for rent, is that that's typically money that's going to waste in terms of like the rewards earning. So the fact that the Built MasterCard came around and offered, right now we're earning 40,000 points per year that we otherwise would not earn. Right. To me, that's just like a no-brainer. It's huge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I use the Built card in a slightly different way than most people, and that's something I've talked about pretty often on the channel, because the way that with my low amount of spend, and I'm not doing like the whole 2-player stuff, so my spend overall is pretty low in general. The way that I've been using my rent payments is to help me hit large minimum spend requirements, which is not necessarily something everybody should do because you do pay a fee in doing that, but if I'm getting a 30% return on spend, a 3% haircut's not going to hurt that bad. But yeah, I always come back to the fact that the Built card is for renters that don't want to play the game like I do and can hit the spin naturally and all that. Yeah, it's a great card. So that's obviously one staple in y'all's 2-player setup.
Yep.
What other cards do y'all use on a consistent basis, like part of the core?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're going with the Venture X, so we've gone with the Venture X to earn 2x on our catch-all spend. Just because, like I said, we have travel booked for this year. We have a fine balance of UR points, and we don't need it for the Hyatt transfers right now. And so we're just gonna optimize that. Plus, as we're doing some travel internationally upcoming, it's got no foreign transaction fees, so just being able to like set and forget that is a good 2x earner. For everything else, I mean, we have my Amex Gold for groceries and dining. However, right now I am using the Discover It card for restaurants for the first quarter of 2025. I never got that card. That was one thing I skipped over. And because I knew that we were going to be doing this whole like home buying process sometime soon, I locked that in as my most recent card in September of last year. So I'm in the middle of my like first year matching promotion.
Yeah, that's great.
So effectively, I'm getting 10% cash back on everything. And the way to think about that is that it's like say I was earning using the Amex Gold for dining, and I was earning 4x points. Theoretically, I'd have to redeem those points for 2.5 cents per point to equal 10% back in value to beat what the Discover It is getting me right now. So
with no annual fee too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like the Amex Gold is going to make sense to you, or is the Discover It is going to make sense to use right now for the 10% back, while restaurants is rotating category. When that's not the case, I'm using the Amex Gold for dining, using it for grocery stores, Citi Custom Cash for 5x on gas, where that's sort of just like a bonus thing. We don't spend too much on gas, but we like to use that. That pretty much covers most of our core setup. And then we're always just throwing in any of the other cards as needed for special use cases.
Yep.
It really all just depends on the day, I guess.
Gotcha. What points currencies do y'all focus on the most when it comes to earning? Which ones get used the most? And then we can talk about how you actually use them.
We're in the camp that we like to really diversify across, like, it doesn't matter as much. I think if our goal is to earn Hyatt points, we're going to focus on built and chase cards. And that was a large part of our strategy last year. And when I made a strategy update video, that was a large focus of that. Right now, we're just really trying to earn any points possible at whatever the highest rate is. There is a lot of overlap, and I think what's cool is like the deeper you get into your knowledge with the points and miles world, you're able to find value with any transfer partner. So like, obviously we love Hyatt and we prefer to have points in our back pocket for those options when we need it. But we've been doing a lot of flights as well lately, and not just business class, economy style flights. Like, so Amex, we've been doing a lot of the, earning Amex points and then transferring to Hawaiian Airlines, and then transferring there to Alaska to book American Airlines flights. And so that's a nice little like travel situation we have going on that probably is not going to last forever. I don't think it's going to last longer. I don't know how long, but yeah. So I think we're just trying to earn the most amount of points possible at this point right now.
And that's going to come mainly these days from your daily spend. So that core credit card setup is very important for you right now. Whereas for somebody like me, it's more like, what card bonus can I get next to add to that balance that I need?
Yeah.
For me, it's always really Chase points first, and then Amex points kind of just constantly are going up for like business spend and stuff like that. But
and we're gonna go back to that too, because once we're past the mortgage thing, like I said, we're gonna go back to that where Jackie has so much room to get all these sign up bonuses as well. And then by the time she goes through her sign up bonuses, I might be like eligible for some other offers again after like different time periods have passed. New cards can come out as well, and we haven't even explored like Wells Fargo cards, which, I mean, they're not as great as some of the other options, but they're actually kind of underrated. They do have transfer partners with their cards, and there's some opportunities there as well. So there's still so much out there for us. There's business credit cards. We're trying to see what the best way is to get Jackie approved for those as she starts to help out with this business for our media company as well. So there's a lot of stuff we have coming up that we can take advantage of. And even though I've been doing this like with the sign up bonuses and optimizing for that mostly for the past since 2018, now it's like Jackie's turn after we buy a house, and then it'll be back to me, and then it's always evolving.
Yeah, I feel like once I get into the player 2 setup more, so I will probably want to keep my partners, all of her status is really low. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like her to be able to get approved for any card, because she'll have a high credit score if I add her as authorized users and all that. But she can go get a card like the Saver Rewards, which I don't think I'll be able to get right now because I have 17 card accounts. You know what I mean? Same thing goes for really like any of the inquiry sensitive banks like Citi or Wells Fargo even. But yeah, it's really cool to hear how y'all are using that. Now, as for the points that you've earned, we kind of know that you're just kind of earning any transferable currency you can, combining them across like transfer partners. Which transfer partners are you using the most besides Hyatt at this point? Mainly for like flights and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can go through some of the things that like we booked for this year.
Mhm.
So we booked for our flight down to Cape Town. We booked KLM business class that we were able to take advantage of through Virgin
Mhm.
Atlantic. So I think we transferred some Capital One miles for that when there was a transfer bonus over the summertime, I believe. I don't remember the exact amount, but we got a really good deal. I
Mhm.
think we got somewhere around like 6 or 7 cents per
That's
point for
crazy.
that. And that'll be nice. Just it's 10-hour flight. And then what else have we done? We just recently did a redemption for over to Amsterdam where we connected through Boston. And a side note to that, like I think the more you're open to flexibility to connecting, so like we're in Philadelphia right now. I think we're pretty well positioned to like we can connect as far south as like Atlanta pretty easily if we need to, or we can go up to JFK. Like we fly to JFK quite a bit, or Newark, or fly over to Boston and then connect out of there. So for that, we flew into Boston and we took a JetBlue Mint flight over to Amsterdam. I think that's a highly underrated product, and
Mhm.
we got a decent deal there through Qatar Airways. So we either transferred directly to Qatar, or we may have done a trick where we transferred to British Airways and then British Airways to Qatar to book that. And I think it was maybe like 78,000 miles per person, and then there's a transfer bonus as well. So
Yeah,
like
that's great.
those always are huge. What else do we have upcoming? We booked a couple flights down to the Bahamas that we did through that Hawaiian Alaska thing. So Amex to Hawaiian, Hawaiian to Alaska, Alaska to book American Airlines.
Yeah.
So it sounds complicated, but that's a great thing going on right now. So that's definitely been one of our favorites, I'd say.
Mhm.
And then what else do we have later on this year? Oh, later on this year, we're gonna do we're flying into Frankfurt and we're going to do JFK to Frank. We're doing a couple of what are called Fifth Freedom flights.
Okay.
So we basically will fly from one airport to another on an airline that's not based in either one of those.
Mm.
So we're flying from JFK to Frankfurt, Germany on Singapore Airlines. So Singapore not based in either one of those countries,
Mhm.
Germany or the USA, and we are able to connect on this business class flight from JFK to Singapore to get over to Europe, and then we're gonna fly from Frankfurt, just connect with economy down to Switzerland and do some exploring in Switzerland for a little bit. We're gonna jump over to Lake Como and Milan in
Mhm.
the early fall, late summer, early fall, and then we're gonna connect back from Milan back to JFK on Emirates A380 business
Wow.
class, which has like the onboard lounge, and people love to hype that up. So we'll see what that's all about, and that'll be another cool thing. So yeah, I think we're trying to explore as much as we can right now and use up as much of our points. Like we're really trying to like use up all our points over the next few years
Mhm.
so that we because hopefully we'll start a family sometime soon,
Yeah.
settle into a house and maybe not travel quite as much, at least quite as much internationally. So
Yeah.
we want to try to like see all the places we want to see, and we're really kind of going like full speed ahead with it.
So everything you just said there sounds like you said extremely complicated. For the normal person, how can they, learn to even make these types of redemptions?
Yeah, it really just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. You have to enjoy it. So I think there's, like I said, there's beginner level transfers, like the Hyatt stuff that I think most people can understand pretty quickly.
Mhm.
The other stuff you have to kind of like stay in the know, and so that's where there's the resources out there.
Mhm.
We have a newsletter, so there's definitely you can subscribe to that. We got examples coming in every single week about how to do these things and what the newest and latest and greatest things are.
Mhm. Super helpful.
Yeah, and then we have obviously YouTube videos and some other things coming out soon that we want to just be able to teach people exactly how to do this stuff, put it all in one place, give you plenty of examples on how to do this stuff.
Mhm.
And I think those are going to be some good resources for people that are looking to just like become that go-to person in their friends and family that like you're the points and miles guy,
Yeah.
or points and miles girl. Like you're that person that like knows how to do this stuff. So that's kind of how I am. It's probably how you are.
Yeah.
That's how my friends view me and my family views me. They're just like book this for us.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom literally just called me the other day and I helped her book some flights to like Alaska and then Oklahoma. She's like, every time she needs to book something, she just
Mhm.
calls me.
Yeah.
But it does take a lot of time and dedication. I really appreciate the resources that you have on your channel. I even give them like your transfer partner guide spreadsheet. I give out to a lot of people in one-on-one calls and stuff. But yeah, I guess can you quickly just explain? So even let's just focus in on like one sweet spot redemption right now, being that Amex to Hawaiian to Alaska to American. How does that exactly work? Like if you were to go through that process, how would you even book it?
Yeah. First of all, I always recommend flexibility.
Yeah.
Like as much as possible. If the more flexible, the better with either the airports that you're flying into or flying over to, or just being flexible in the dates. It really helps a lot. And that's somebody who's self-employed. Like that obviously is a benefit that I have.
Mhm.
But my wife is not self-employed. So we do have to be mindful of her PTO schedule. So we make it work, as much as it might seem like I have the ultimate flexibility, it's possible to make it work on normal PTO schedules.
Mhm.
So you want to stay flexible in the options. We try to plan far out in advance. or we're willing to be flexible as things kind of pop up. And so we kind of like, we know, or we also like, if we want to do a trip, we have maybe like a few options and we're like, okay, what can we do? Let's see what's available for award availability. And from there, we use this tool called Seats.aero. Highly recommend that tool. There's a few other tools out there as well, but that's just the one that I have become most familiar with. And we use a lot in our newsletter and on my channel. And so you can use that to basically like plug in different dates, different destinations. You can search multiple destinations, and you could just see all that's out. It saves you a ton of time on actually manually searching on like United's website or on Alaska's website or something like that. So we do that a lot. We use Seats.aero. And once you're able to find a date that works for you, you just then have to figure out how to get those points over there. So that's where you just have to like, that's where you need to know the inside knowledge on like the transfer partners. And you can use the transfer partner, like you said, the guide that we have for doing that. And the more you do it, the better you become. It's a skill. The more you do it, the more reps you get in. You can even just practice this stuff. You don't have to do it with a redemption in mind, but be like, all right, if I was going to fly to Switzerland, how would I do it? Because we're not flying directly into Zurich or Geneva or anything like that. We're flying into Frankfurt. We also looked at flying into Paris. We looked at flying into London and Dublin and like all these other cities where like, where else could we connect through? And we were willing to work with that. So for that, we're flying, we're going to have to drive to JFK, which is a little bit further. Ideally, we would rather fly out of Philadelphia or out of Newark, but JFK is always an option. So we're going to do that. So flexibility, use tools like Seats.aero, and then just practice.
Right. Yeah, so flexibility not only on dates, but on airports, as well as I would imagine most of these flights you're booking, at least some of the examples you gave, you're booking one-way flights each time, which is another big key that a lot of people would just want to book a round-trip flight. They always try to filter by like nonstop, which I do too for like domestic stuff. But international, that goes to a whole nother level, right?
Yeah, I think I always like to book one-way just because if you're trying to find award, it's already tough to find award availability one-way, so let alone round-trip. So you could do that. Also, like travel plans change, things come up. And if you're booking in points, and a lot of times the cancellation and change policies are much more favorable if you just have the one-way ticket. Obviously, if you find something that the round trip is significantly cheaper for some reason, then maybe that's something you got to factor in. But in my experience, booking one-way versus round trip is generally a toss-up in terms of the price, especially when it comes to points, miles, redemptions. Usually it's like they're fixed rates. There are some sweet spots in there where round trip can be a little bit of a better deal. But so just, again, it comes back to doing the research on that stuff. If you're looking to fly a certain leg, just look at that. Also, look at the aircraft too. A lot of people won't do that, but you need to understand what the aircraft is that you're going to fly, because there's been times where I was looking to fly, I think TAP Portugal back from Portugal last year or 2 years ago. And the business class seat that they had was not lay flat. It was not and it was basically just like a premium economy style thing. And it was going to cost as much as like a lay flat seat. And so because I knew the aircraft and I did a Google search on what their business class looked like in that aircraft, I knew it wasn't going to be a thing we wanted to do. So we found a way to fly a different airline instead. So just search on the aircraft, see what the flight is, and be flexible as much as possible with all that stuff.
Utilize all your resources. I'm always like, anytime I book any kind of international trip, I got really lucky with my Croatia one that I talked about on the channel, where I wasn't flexible with dates at all. I just put in the dates I needed, and I luckily found, 60,000 point one-way flights in business class with KLM, which you'll be flying this year too. But yeah, a lot of times I'm sitting there, like I'll reach out to Luke's Points and Miles. I'll reach out to you. I might reach out to JP Knowledge. I reach out to everybody I know that does this stuff and make sure that I get the best redemption possible.
And honestly, like it should be something that you actually, if you're not enjoying this process and you don't find it fun, like then don't do it. Also, it's easier to find economy stuff too. There's nothing wrong with getting economy redemptions. There's a lot of good value. You can stretch your points even further too. So to me, it's like one of those things where, I mean, Jackie and I, we find ourselves, we're watching TV at the end of the day, watching Netflix or whatever. And we just find ourselves both on a laptop and we're just like, ooh, this would be fun. Like, let's just search it. And we're just doing like these test searches. And we're like, a lot of times that's where these trips are all born out of. We're just like, oh, that would be fun. Let's see what's out there. And then we're like, right now we're looking into doing possibly like New Zealand and maybe like a quick stop in Sydney, Australia at some point a year from now in like January or February of 26. And so we're just looking at stuff. It's difficult to find stuff that works out for award seats through that. So we're kind of just browsing that right now, seeing what's out there. But that's kind of the fun part. Like we enjoy it. It's like a puzzle. It's like a game. And when we're able to get a good deal, then it's awesome. But sometimes we don't try to force it either.
Gotcha. I think that's key, is like same thing when it comes to cent per point values and redemptions. I am a big fan of bending my cent per point values to my trips rather than only booking a trip because of the cent per point value I get. I think that is a danger, but as you get into this international travel stuff, it does become slightly addicting to like get the best cent per point value possible. But for me, for most of my trips, the domestic economy trips, the Chase Sapphire Reserve for me is perfect. I book through the portal a lot of times if I need to for certain hotels and domestic airlines. And so you can really go as deep as you want to, I think is the main point here. And I love hearing about your experiences with it. Do you have a specific flight that has been your favorite so far? Any specific airline that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a favorite one, I might just say like the first time I flew business class on Air France.
Yeah, that's what
it wasn't even like a great product, but it was just the first time like you're like, wow, like or international business class, like so like lay flat seats and stuff. You're just like, this is so different, and this is just you actually like get a little bit of sleep. I'm a tall person, so like I don't really fit into even business class like too well, but if I fit in well enough, that I'm able to get like a few hours of sleep. And it's just a different way to like start a trip, especially like internationally, that like if you're able to be a little bit rested and not miserable in that first day, or you don't have back pain and stuff like that, it's something that I would love to be able to pay cash for. It's just still, I'm a frugal person, so it's tough to wrap my head around paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000+ on like I just can't do that. So the fact that it lets us do that on $500 worth of points or less or something, it's pretty amazing in my mind that like I would pay that for an economy seat. And now I'm able to use $500 worth of points to fly business class. Like I'll do that every time. So that first time doing that, I think was really cool. And each one's a little bit different.
Yeah.
We try to like remind ourselves of how fortunate we are to be able to like do this.
Yeah, and you're testing so many. It's cool. That's the cool thing too. Is like I've done one international trip so far, booked the one business class. It was great. Same exact experience you're describing. It was also Air France business class. Not a great product, but had the lay flat and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is really like a blessing to be able to do this kind of stuff. That's what this credit card game is all about to me. Is being able to make memories with your loved ones, with people that you might not have been able to otherwise without the points. And of course, you have to spend money to get these points, but if you do it correctly, you apply for welcome offers, and that's how you get your points. You can really expedite this process. So
absolutely, yeah. It's the idea is you're not trying to overspend and because you can lose money that way and end up in a bad spot. But if you know your finances, we're big budgeters. We love to know where our money's coming in from and going out to. That helps in this whole process a lot, and I think it's really underrated. Mm-hmm. And also like, I mean, having a business, I'm not going to lie, is definitely like another big advantage that like there's business spend that most people would not be able to have if they just have a job. So like being able to like have the business spend helps out a lot. A lot of people can still get approved for business credit cards and get the sign up bonuses to at least take advantage of that. So I think that's another thing to look into. But yeah, there are people out there that are earning, I mean, way more points than me or you. And it's amazing like what some business owners are able to earn with some of these business cards just through their ad spend and their inventory spend. And stuff.
Yeah. So switching gears a bit now, you mentioned that you have a newsletter, which is a newer thing, and I think it's really amazing. I kind of want to just hear more about your experience in starting that, and what value you've been able to provide so far and what you expect it to turn into. Yeah,
the newsletter is something I've always wanted to do. So I think for the past like few years, I've tried to like provide resources to people in my YouTube videos, and all I ask for in return is your email address, and we're not going to sell it to anybody. We're not going to do anything. We just want to like see. And so what we did was we did that. We gathered a whole bunch of emails over the course of a couple of years. And eventually earlier this year, I finally got in contact with somebody that was going to help out with the newsletter, brought in somebody else to help write with me. And he does the majority of the writing, and we're all collaborating on the stuff. So it's awesome. Does a great job. And so we started this newsletter just based off those email contacts. And now we take people out that like weren't opening them. So like we're not trying to like bother people in their inbox. It's just if we want them to open it, they will. And we've got insane open rates. Like we've got so many people opening this email every single week where we're just giving examples of redeeming points, some other thoughts on like credit card stuff, everyday personal finance things. So the goal is for it to just be an extension of the YouTube channel, to be another resource that helps people to save money and kind of live their best lives, optimize their everyday finances. That's really the mission here. So that's going to be a big focus, is trying to like continue growing that because it's just, I think it's a really cool thing to have another touch point with like our audience. And so we're going to hopefully, ramp that up to 2 times per week at some point in the near future. And then kind of go from there and see what people think of it.
Yeah. So how do y'all source that amount of information? Because the redemptions that you've provided, like I read through them a lot too, because I'm not necessarily an expert in the international first class travel. Where do y'all find those redemptions from?
It's just bouncing ideas off each other. So me and Nick, who's our writer, we kind of bounce ideas, and we go through, and we're just like, okay, this would be a good redemption, or this is something that I did or you did, and we're just getting inspiration from where people might want to travel to, and where we're trying to get feedback from people too. So we're trying to listen to our audience and see where they want to go. We're also trying to start to help people redeem
Mhm.
stuff. So we even put out a survey for asking people like, hey, we want to try to help
Yes.
book some stuff. And we have a couple things coming up with people to hopefully help them do that. So that's going to be really cool for just helping people learn, helping people book cool experiences, but while also like, maybe making like a YouTube video out of it. And that's really cool. So we're excited about that. Yeah. So it's really just whatever seems cool to us. And that's the cool thing with like doing your own thing and owning this business is like, we can just do whatever we want and whatever we're trying to build the YouTube channel, the newsletter, the community here that I would want to be a part of, and that's kind of been like the North Star, I'd say, through the whole past 4 years I've been doing this.
Yeah. And it goes back to as well with the people that subscribe, including myself, where it's like, okay, how do I want to get better at redeeming my points? Well, maybe I read this newsletter once a week and I can get some better ideas. Like, I just think it's such a nice ecosystem to be a part of, watching our videos and reading our newsletters and stuff like that,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's fun.
Another thing I really admire about your channel is the fact that you have been able to weave in your personal redemptions and experiences, B-roll from your trips and stuff, into your normal videos.
Mm-hmm.
One unfortunate thing getting into the I guess inside baseball with YouTube is it seems like these days it's really hard for us to post anything outside of just straight up credit card content and expecting it to do well. It just kind of dies if we do anything else. I think a natural progression people expect YouTubers like us to make is to maybe post some kind of like travel vlogs or, even general personal finance stuff too. But speaking on the travel vlogs specifically, if we were to post those, we've seen it might just not do anything really. Is that something that you would want to do if the algorithm wasn't the way that it is now? Or do you like being able to just interweave it into your normal content?
Yeah, it's tough because I do have to like frame it that if I want to present more stuff from my personal life or other topics, I have to frame it in a certain way that it does relate back to what my audience wants to watch. And that's not because I'm trying to game the algorithm or anything like that. And it's not how it works. Like, the algorithm is people. And the way it works is that YouTube, when you upload a video, they're going to show it to a small subset of your audience. And based on how that small subset reacts, they're then going to show it to maybe some more people and then maybe some more people. So it's just kind of like it's a numbers game and a data game. And if whatever you're posting with the topic, the title, the thumbnail doesn't resonate with people as well as your best performing videos, YouTube's going to see that and it's going to benchmark that new video against that, and it's just not going to perform as well. It might be a good evergreen video, possibly. It could get picked up later on, but really it's just like it's like I'm not even trying to game the algorithm or anything like that. It's just what do people want to watch, and so unfortunately that's just the way YouTube does that. And once a video is not surfaced, it's really tough to kind of gain that traction back. So I would like to continue making more videos that are very much related to credit card content, and that's my goal, is to continue doing that. So I've made some videos about budgeting and bank accounts, and I've done a few that were like what I spend in a week and things like that. So we're going to try doing more of those. We're going to do more videos about redeeming points, but at the very least, I know that I can throw in some B-roll from my current stuff. That's kind of the challenge with YouTube, is just figuring out what do people want to watch, experimenting, and while still providing what are like good videos that people will watch based off my past 4 years. Like, I know what people want to watch. So I'm going to experiment with a few videos and then just, deliver what like my core audience knows that I'm known for.
And you found that, like you just mentioned, through surveys and stuff like that too. I've tried to put those out on my channel recently as well to really source the audience.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of like big standout, I guess, themes that have been shared across your audience that you've kind of had revelations about recently? Like who those people are, what kind of point redeemers they are and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, my audience, I always go into my analytics just to see like what they are. And my audience, it largely breaks down to 85% US based, because I talk a lot about credit cards in the US. So that makes sense. 85% male, which is odd. I guess just more guys are interested.
That's how mine is too.
Yeah. And it's whatever. It doesn't seem like that when I look at my comment section. It seems pretty 50-50, but that's what the data tells me. And then it's about 85% are between the ages of 18 and 44. And when you look at that, I'm like right in the middle of that demographic, that I'm 29, US based, male. So it's kind of interesting that like I think that people do, to me, that like is like telling that I'm like the avatar for my audience a little bit.
Yeah.
And I try to keep that in mind. And and I see like I kind of get a good feel for like when people will DM me on Instagram or when people are commenting, I can kind of just see like people's thought process, and I'm like, yeah, they kind of think pretty similar to me also. And except for the haters, there's always haters out there.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's good to just get feedback and see what people are thinking. And generally, I think YouTube's very good at like surfacing my videos to people that want to see them. And those people tend to be pretty similar to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good advice for really anybody in the YouTube space, is just to remember, again, that the algorithm is all that is your audience, right? And you have to serve your audience well. And I found too that sometimes you might, I guess, get stuck in a little bit of a microcosm thinking that the people commenting on your videos too are the only people watching. But in reality, say on one of your videos, you have 1,000 comments, but you had 200,000 people watch the video. I think it's easy to kind of get stuck in that trap when in reality, people just sometimes don't know exactly what they want. And you can't take the word of just the commenters, which is an interesting thing that I found too over the past few years is if I do try to appeal to one specific audience, I might be leaving out an entire other audience. But what I think you've done well and why you've been able to grow is because you've kept it broad enough to where everybody can relate.
Yeah. It is kind of funny. Like before I started my YouTube channel, I would watch all these different personal finance channels and other niches over the years, and I never commented once.
Right.
And so creators never knew I existed. But and I see that's very true. That like I will, if I've ever been recognized a few times, like it's usually not people that have like commented or I don't even know about. But they feel like they know me because they've watched my videos for years, and that's pretty cool to know that there's that audience out there that's not even engaging, but they're watching and they like to watch.
Yeah, and that is the bulk of the audience, which is a pretty crazy thing. Last time we talked, you gave some really good advice to aspiring or even new creators that up and coming creators. I'd like to rehash that over the last 2 years of experience you've gained. Maybe we can go back and forth a little bit about some of the new trends you've seen on YouTube and maybe just some tips on what people can do if they want to start performing well.
Yeah. I mean, I think no matter what, if people are brand new to YouTube, you need to just get started. If you have any interest in making content or joining in on the conversation, that's all I wanted to do was join in on the conversation. Just get started, make an intro video, if you're doing credit card stuff, do a what's in my wallet, do something like that. Just get comfortable and understand that. And I think I said this before, but your first, 10, 20, 30 videos are going to be toss away videos. You have to get more comfortable on camera, and I'm not perfect by any means. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has their own style, but your first few videos are going to be awkward and they're going to be weird. And, but that's all part of it. And you don't need to be worried about don't be worried about people finding your videos or making fun of you. Like, people are not going to find those videos most likely. And then you can always delete them later on as you get better. So the goal should be to get 1% better with each video. And that compounds so much over time. Like I said, I've been doing this for 4 years and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface right now. So there's still so much room for growth. And that's why I'm excited that we're already, me and you, we're here at this moment where we are. And there's still so much room to continue growing. Right. Just because that 1% goal with each video, it compounds over time. So get comfortable being on camera. Just talk about stuff that, don't try to please the audience, or don't try to provide such a controversial, contrarian viewpoint that doesn't even make sense just to stick out more. Just be honest and genuine and get comfortable on camera. Don't try to come across as somebody you're not. Don't try to sound too scripted or monotone. Just get comfortable on camera.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the exact goal that I've always had with my videos is I want you to be able to watch this podcast, which is much more casual than a normal video, see me the same way you see me in a normal video. And then if you meet me in person, the same exact way. And I think that's exactly what I noticed whenever I met you the first time as well. And that's what I tell people all the time when they ask me, some advice is just the only thing, that nobody can take away from you is you and your personality, right? So all of us could talk about the same we can make the same video about the Amex Gold card being a new card or the new updates to it. But people don't necessarily care to hear that same information regurgitated. They care to hear your perspective on it. And that's, I guess, going back to the whole, that's why they put the you in YouTube, right? We're trying to be that.
The fact that you can get different perspectives from everybody, that's great. Cause someone else's viewpoint might it might click a little bit better with you. Yeah. And then that's going to help you make your decision. Or, I mean, with any topic on YouTube, if you want to be a creator in any other space, you're going to connect to certain creators and not as much to others. And that's totally fine. Cause I'm sure there's people that would be part of either one of our audience, but they might relate more to you or might relate more to me and or anybody else in our space. I will say, don't be worried about being too overcrowded. I think that's always that's a never-ending fear on YouTube is that there's oversaturation or it's too late. I don't believe that's ever going to be true. I think that first of all, our space is only continuing to grow. I think the interest in credit cards and and taking advantage of the stuff is only continuing to grow. The way I view it is that everybody who grew up on YouTube, I started getting into YouTube around maybe middle school, right? Around that time. Yep. People are now growing up on YouTube from age 1, 2, 3. They're being indoctrinated into YouTube culture. And as they grow up over the years, YouTube is going to continue. YouTube's continue to prove that it's that second largest search engine in the world behind Google, and it's owned by Google.
Right.
So I think the resource is there for YouTube to thrive for decades. it's going to continue like that. And so when this generation that's currently growing up on YouTube continues to enter high school, college, post-grad, adult world, they're going to turn to YouTube for all these questions, and we're going to be positioned to have the answers to that stuff. And so it's a very long-term game. So I wouldn't ever be worried about like oversaturation. I think if you feel like you have a genuine interest, do it because you're interested, do it because you want to help people. Money is one thing, but you need to like what you do, because the money doesn't come along until much later as well.
Yeah, and even if it does, like that can't be the driving force, because we know that sometimes this can be a little bit fickle. You don't want to rely on AdSense for everything. At the end of the day, you're not going to have an audience unless you provide value. And the only way to consistently provide value without eventually being shown as a fraud is to actually have the interest in the topic. And luckily, totally. I think we're in a space where that doesn't happen as much. Like I think our community is one of the best on YouTube, and I don't say that because we're a part of it, but like I genuinely mean that. I have a friend that makes videos in another niche, and they don't communicate at all, the creators and stuff. So I love being here, and I think the audience is great too. And like you said, I think if you have a unique perspective, share it. Also, I think it's important to note that you just have to start where you are. It might be, it's cool to see that we've even like upgraded since our last podcast together. We got new cameras and all of that kind of stuff. But zooming back to whenever we both started, I know I started on my phone with a little like wired mic that was like $30.
Yeah.
Where did you start?
Same thing. Yeah. iPhone. And I'll scroll back through my photo album from 2021.
Yeah.
And I think the first year I was shooting on my iPhone. I had a little $30 mic, like a lavalier mic from Amazon, and just plugged it into my iPhone. Set it up, and then eventually I upgraded and got like this studio light to get a little bit of better lighting. And it's really all you need. Like the technology, even now compared to like 4 or 5 years ago with on portable setups that you can do from your iPhone, it's insane. So that's all you need. I would definitely focus on getting good audio and good lighting before you get a good camera. That'd be my advice.
Absolutely.
And then eventually, as you can upgrade, you can make those purchases and upgrade. And but really, there's some creators that have massive channels and massive audiences, and they're just using their iPhone. So you could definitely get by with it with how good iPhone cameras are. Yeah,
it all comes back down again to that personality. It doesn't really matter what your video looks like. It matters, but as long as you are you and you're providing value, it doesn't matter what that's translated through. If somebody wanted to focus on, say, like the 20% of stuff that contribute to the 80% of the results, and they're just getting started, what would you tell them to spend the most time on in making their videos? Is it the scripting? Is it the ideation, the thumbnail title? What would you focus on?
Topic, title, thumbnail. I would say topic, title, thumbnail. Focus on the topic at first. So don't just like, you want to take inspiration, see what's working on YouTube in your niche. So see what the largest creators are doing, see what's working for them. Understand why certain topics work. It's not because like we're trying again to game the algorithm. It's because the algorithm is the audience. And if the audience is engaging with a certain topic, then there's something there. From there, you want to make sure you don't copy anybody else. You want to get your own perspective, put your own twist on things. And then from there, after you got that topic nailed down and you got a good hook intro, get the title going, get a good thumbnail concept going. Highly recommend everybody, start out in Canva. Download Canva Pro. You get a little extra features, extra features there. Use that, and then focus on that. That's definitely that like 20% that leads to the 80% of the results, I'd say. I still treat it that way. Honestly, I'm constantly like tweaking and adjusting all the titles, the thumbnails, and really the topics is what I spend I'm trying to basically like, if I get the topic wrong, nothing else matters. If somebody doesn't want to watch a video, they're not going to watch a video on that topic. You can adjust the title and thumbnail as much as you want, but if people have no interest in watching that, then it's just going to be tough to do. I would also say for early creators to focus on search-based content. That's what I've done from the start, because you have to build up that audience. You really have to build up that audience at first, and it's tough to get on the recommended page, the homepage, when your content might not be as perfect as you want it to be, but your opinion could be very good and very valuable, and people can find that through search if they're searching for a very specific topic or a question. And you can answer that question. And I remember ranking a few of my videos very early on in search because I got very good at figuring out how to answer those questions. So that would be another big tip that I'd have.
Another big warning I like to give creators too, when it comes to the copying thing in particular, of course, whenever you're starting out, you're going to take inspiration from others, right? I still take inspiration from you. I take it from other people as well. But at the end of the day, if you are going to straight up copy somebody, for one, you're not having your own opinion, which means why would people really care? Also, your only hope is to be the second best version of that video that was already made. That's something to really remember too, because while you can take inspiration, there's a big difference between inspiration and just straight up copying. So that's something that I like to tell people to focus on as well. And just try to come up with your own ideas. Do that heavy search intent. And remember too, that while you're smaller, you don't have the you haven't been proven yet in the algorithm for people to really care about what you say, which sounds bad, but that is just the truth. Whenever I started, I knew people wouldn't really care about my opinion yet because I hadn't been sharing it. So until you get to that point, just realize that your strategy is going to be a little bit different, and you can't just take a video that Daniel does or a video that I do and just make it and it's going to do the same thing. That's just not how it works. So a lot of good advice though from you there.
Yeah, I totally love that advice too, that like you're only going to be the second best if you're trying to like copy somebody like that. So you have to have some originality to it for sure. Yeah, I think also another cool thing is that people should be doing is taking advantage of like underutilized, if I'm talking about like, focusing on search, focus on like underutilized search terms. So like people may try to be like, okay, well, I'm going to make Daniel or Spencer had a 7 best credit cards 2025 video that did well, and they may want to make their own. That's going to be a really tough search topic to rank for as a new channel. And that's just like the way it is. Even if your video is better than mine, if your people actually would like that video more, it's just going to be tough to when you don't have that existing audience. It really comes down to that. So if you can find like underutilized topics within search that maybe don't have a good answer or are very like specific and focused. Again, all you're trying to do early on is build up that initial audience. And if you can do that, you can start to gain a little momentum. And from there, like target a slightly larger audience and then a slightly broader audience. But you have to start small and you have to be patient. So I think some people just shoot too big from the start. And really, if they're able to be a little bit better with that, helps.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, I just saw it.
I was just distracted. My dog just walked in. He has Molly's bed.
I was like, I thought he just took the whole pillow in here.
I almost started dying laughing. I saw him walking with that.
Oh boy, I'll have to get him in here at the end, like honorary Odin.
I know, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we can go ahead and start wrapping up. I don't even know how to transition out of that. That was just funny.
Yeah.
So now that you've been spending more and more time in this space, obviously you have this advice for the newer creators, but you've expanded a lot since then. You've grown a lot over the past couple of years. So you're, venturing into new business, just things that even like I can't relate to just yet, which I think is great. What can we expect from you, from Daniel Braun's channel, from your whole business over, say the next 12 months?
Yeah. I mean, so we're like expanding the team. So the goal is to try to get that. If I was trying to do it all myself, it was going to be too much. So I have an awesome editor on my team. I've been working with him for over a year, and he's super hands-on, like giving good input, and like he makes all these great graphics and visuals and stuff. And I think he makes a complicated topic like credit cards and points and miles seem easier. So I think that's really a good thing that we have here. With the newsletter, that's a huge thing we're expanding to. And so now I actually have like a first full-time employee, and he's a writer for that, and he's helping a lot with other things as well. So he's going to be huge in helping to like just provide more value, give more resources in these videos. We're going to try to do a lot more of that. And get people over to the newsletter as well, because I think that's going to continue being a big focus for the overall like media company here. That's like kind of around this YouTube channel. We also want to continue uploading more videos. So we've been doing like 3 to 4 per month. I want to aim for 5, and that's going to be our goal to continue doing that. While also expanding to like slightly other like credit card adjacent topics that like you said, it's tough to sometimes find the topics that do resonate with like your current audience. So I'm really trying to like explore and test out things that might work out well and have some overlap with my current audience to expand it a bit. And so those are going to be a lot of the big focuses. We do have some other things coming up down the line that I'm going to be excited to announce pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's all centered around like helping people understand how to redeem points and miles. And I get a lot of people that reach out to me directly with email or DM, and they want direct help with like learning how to do this stuff. So we're really trying to develop a few things right now that we'll talk about soon that should help people a lot, while also not like it is time consuming, right? So we're trying to like figure out a good way to do it and use the team that we've built up here right now, and maybe even like grow the team a little bit too for other people that can help out in part-time capacities. So there's a lot of stuff I want to experiment with. I think early on in YouTube, I was quitting my job to do YouTube full time was a big risk, and then and now I want to start like taking some more risks again and not get like too comfortable, I guess. And so I want to keep pushing those boundaries a little bit for myself and for the business, while also just like never losing sight of like why people are even here in the first place, and continuing to just make sure everybody's enjoying being a part of the community, and they're actually watching the videos and liking them and talking to me and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for 2025 and even looking ahead to 2026 already.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm first to say that I'm excited to see what happens too. Hopefully we'll get to do this again another year or two or whatever, and just keep updating you as time goes on, and then we can watch these again in the future and just see where we all came from. But again, just want to say thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Maybe we should grab your pup in here for a little outro as well.
Yeah, Cody. Cody, come here, bud.
Get his toy and he'll come.
Yeah.
God, watch, all the cameras are about to get taken out.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Good boy.
Get him in your camera.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Well, yeah, once again, thank you, Daniel, for letting us film this out of your apartment, out of your studio, too. So
we're going to sign off here from me and Cody. And he was bothering us in the background the whole time, but he's just happy to see everybody here.
yeah, the honorary Odin.
Yeah. More of Cody in 2025 as well.
Heck yeah. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.